Welcome to Strategic Management. I am Professor Simeon, and during our third week, we will focus on the fourth and the fifth chapters of the textbook, that is, on the topics environmental scanning and industry analysis, as well as organizational analysis and competitive advantage. Regarding fourth chapter, which is titled Environmental Scanning and Industry Analysis. After reading it, you should be able to, one, list the aspects of an organization's environment that can influence its long-term decisions, identify the aspects of an organization's environment that are most strategically important, conduct an industry analysis to explain the competitive forces that influence the intensity of rivalry within an industry, discuss how industry maturity affects industry competitive forces, categorize international industries based on their pressures for coordination and local responsiveness, identify key success factors and develop an industry matrix, construct strategic group maps to assess the competitive positions of firms in an industry, develop an industry scenario as a forecasting technique, use publicly available information to conduct competitive intelligence, and construct an EFAS table that summarizes external environmental factors. So, environmental scanning is the monitoring, evaluation, and dissemination of information relevant to the organizational development strategy. Identifying external environmental variables. The natural environment includes physical resources, wildlife, and climate that are inherent part of existence on Earth. These factors form an ecological system of interrelated life. The social environment is the humankind's social system that includes general forces that do not directly touch on the short-run activities of the organization, but that can influence its long-term decisions. These factors affect multiple industries and are as follows: economic, technological, political, legal, and socio-cultural. The task environment includes those elements or groups that directly affect a corporation and, in turn, are affected by it. These are governments, local communities, suppliers, competitors, customers, creditors, employees, labor unions, special interest groups, and trade associations. Industry analysis is an in-depth examination of key factors within a corporation's task environment. So, what is the STEEP analysis? It's a type of scanning the environment, and this type of scanning can be called STEEP, S-T-E-E-P analysis, which is the scanning of socio-cultural, technological, economic, ecological, and political, legal, environmental forces. So, in this table of STEEP analysis, we see the monitoring trends in the societal and natural environment. So, as shown in this table, table 4.1, large corporations categorize the natural and societal environments in any one geographic region into 5 areas and focus their scanning in each area on trends that have corporate-wide relevance. So you can pause this video and take a good look at this table. Now, this second table indicates the demographic trends, which are part of the sociocultural aspect of the societal environment. For example, the demographic bulge in the US population caused by the baby boomers after World War II continues to affect market demand in many industries. So this group of 77 million people now in their 50s and 60s is the largest age group in all developed countries, especially in Europe. You can see the source from Pew Research Center. Now, what about the current sociocultural trends? 8 current sociocultural trends are transforming North America and the rest of the world. These include the increasing environmental awareness, the growing health consciousness, the expanding seniors market, the impact of the millennials, the declining mass market, the changing pace and location of life, the changing household composition, and the increasing diversity of workforce and markets. Also, researchers at George Washington University have identified a number of technological breakthroughs that are already having a significant impact on many industries. These include portable information devices and electronic networking, alternative energy sources, precision farming, virtual personal assistants, genetically altered organisms, smart mobile robots. So, trends in the ecological part of the environment have been accelerating at a pace that is difficult to stay up with. This element is focused upon the natural environment and its consideration or impacts upon the operation of a business. The effects of climate change on companies can be grouped into 6 categories of risk: regulatory risk, supply chain risk, product and technology, litigation risk, reputation risk, and physical risk. In this following table, we have some important variables in international societal environments. So, to account for the many differences among societal environments from one country to another, you may want to consider this table, 4.3, which includes a list of important variables in international societal environments, such as economic, technological, political, legal, and sociocultural, for any particular country or region. The next figure represents the scanning of external task environment. So, as shown in this figure, 4.1, a corporation scanning of the environment includes analysis of all the relevant elements in the task environment. These analyses take the form of individual reports written by various people in different parts of the firm. You may want to take a good look at this to simply get a good look at the picture itself. Here we have the forces driving industry competition. Actually, Michael Porter, who is an authority on competitive strategy, contends that a corporation is most concerned with the intensity of competition within its industry. So the level of this intensity is determined by basic competitive forces, such as this depicted in figure 4.2. The collective strength of these forces, he contends, determines the ultimate profit potential in the industry, where profit potential is measured in terms of long-run return on invested capital. In carefully scanning its industry, a corporation must assess the importance of its success of each of 6 forces, as we can see them. Threat of new entrants, rivalry among existing firms, threat of substitute products or services, bargaining power of buyers, bargaining power of suppliers, and relative power of other stakeholders. So the stronger each of these forces is, the more limited companies are in their ability to rise prices and earn greater profits. Although Porter mentions only 5 forces, a 6th, or other stakeholders, is added here to reflect the power that governments, local communities, and other groups from the task environment wield over industry activities. So using the model in figure 0.42, a high force can be regarded as a threat because it is likely to reduce profits. A low force, in contrast, can be viewed as an opportunity because it may allow the company to earn greater profits. In the short run, these forces act as constraints on a company's activities. In the long run, however, it may be possible for a company, through its choice of strategy, to change the strength of one or more of the forces to the company's advantage. So, how about the threat of the new entrants? New entrants to an industry typically bring to it new capacity, a desire to gain market share, and potentially substantial resources. An entry barrier, on the other hand, is an obstruction that makes it difficult for a company to enter an industry. So, the threat of entry depends on the presence of entry barriers and the reaction that can be expected from existing competitors. An entry barrier is an obstruction that makes it difficult for a company to enter an industry. Some of the possible barriers to entry are economies of scale, product differentiation, capital requirements, switching costs, accessing to distribution channel, cost disadvantages due to size, and, of course, government policies. In most industries, corporations are mutually dependent. A competitive move by one firm can be expected to have a noticeable effect on its competitors and thus may cause retaliation. According to Porter, intense rivalry is related to the presence of several factors, including number of competitors, rate of industry growth, product or service characteristics, amount of fixed costs, capacity, height of exit barriers, diversity of rivals. So, a substitute product is a product that appears to be different but can satisfy the same need as another product. The identification of possible substitute products or services means searching for products or services that can perform the same function even though they have a different appearance and may not appear to be an easy substitute. So the buyers affect the industry through their ability to force down prices, bargain for higher quality or more services, and play competitors against each other. A buyer or a group of buyers is powerful if some of the following factors hold true: large purchases, backward integration, alternative suppliers, low cost to change suppliers, product represents a higher percentage of buyer's cost, incentive to shop around, buyer earns low profits, cost service sensitive, and the product is unimportant to the buyer. So suppliers can affect an industry through their ability to raise prices or reduce quality of purchased goods and services. A buyer or a group of buyers is powerful if some of the following factors hold true. Industry is dominated by few companies. Unique product or service. Substitutes are not readily available. Ability to forward integrate. Unimportance of product or service to the industry. A sixth force should be added to Porter's list to include a variety of stakeholder groups from the task environment. Some of these groups are governments, if not explicitly included elsewhere, local communities, creditors, if not included with suppliers, trade associations, special interest groups, unions, if not included with suppliers, shareholders, and complementors. So, a fragmented industry is one where no firm has large market share, and each firm serves only a small piece of the total market in competition with others, for example, cleaning services. A consolidated industry is one dominated by a few large firms, each of which struggles to differentiate its products from those of the competitors. Multi-domestic industries are specific to each country or group of countries. This type of international industry is a collection of essentially domestic industries such as retailing and insurance. Global industries, in contrast, operate worldwide with MNCs margins only small adjustments for country-specific circumstances. Regional industries are those in which the MNCs primarily coordinate their activities within regions such as Americas or Asia. Now, in the next figure 4.3, according to Porter, worldwide industries vary on a continuum from multi-domestic to global, as you can see in this figure. Multi-domestic industries are specific to each country or group of countries. This type of international industry is a collection of essentially domestic industries such as retailing and insurance. The activities in a subsidiary of a multinational corporation, MNC, in this type of industry are essentially independent of the activities of the MNC's subsidiaries in other countries. Within each country, it has a manufacturing facility to produce goods for sale within that country. The MNC is thus able to tailor its products or services to the very specific needs of consumers in a particular country or group of countries having similar societal environments. Global industries, in contrast, operate worldwide, with MNCs making only small adjustments for country-specific circumstances. In a global industry, an MNC's activities in one country are not significantly affected by its activities in other countries. So MNCs in global industries produce products or services in various locations throughout the world and sell them, making only minor adjustments for the specific country requirements. The next figure is actually a mapping strategic groups in the US restaurant chain industry. So a strategic group is a set of business units or firms that pursue similar strategies with similar resources. So strategic groups in a particular industry can be mapped by plotting the market positions of industry competitors on a two-dimensional graphic using two strategy variables as the vertical and horizontal axis. We can see on this figure the product line breadth and the price. But what about the strategic types? There are general types of strategic decisions that follow specific characteristics. The defenders are companies with a limited product line that focus on improving efficiency on their existing operations. Prospectors are companies with fairly broad product lines that focus on product innovation and market opportunities. Analyzers are corporations that operate in at least two different product market areas, one stable and one variable. And retractors are corporations that lack a consistent strategy, structure, culture relationship. What about the hyper competition? Market stability is threatened by short product life cycles, short product design cycles, new technologies, frequent entry by unexpected outsiders, repositioning by incumbents, and tactical redefinitions of market boundaries as diverse industries merge. Richard Daveni contends that as this type of environmental turbulence reaches more industries, competition becomes hyper competition. According to Daveni, quote, in hyper competition, the frequency, boldness, and aggressiveness of dynamic movement by the players accelerates to create a condition of constant disequilibrium and change. Market stability is threatened by short product life cycles, short production design cycles, new technologies, frequent entry by unexpected outsiders, repositioning by incumbents, and tactical redefinitions of market boundaries as diverse industries merge. In other words, environments escalate towards higher and higher levels of uncertainty, dynamism, heterogeneity of players, and hostility. So let's take a look at this graphic, this table. Key success factors are variables that can significantly affect the overall competitive positions of companies within any particular industry. They typically vary from industry to industry and are crucial to determining a company's ability to succeed within that industry. They are usually determined by the economic and technological characteristics of the industry and by the competitive weapons on which the firms in the industry have built their strategies. So as shown in table 4.4, the matrix gives a weight for each factor based on how important that factor is for success within the industry. So the matrix also specifies how well various competitors in the industry are responding to each factor. We have to deal in this case with competitive intelligence. So competitive intelligence is a formal program of gathering information on a company's competitors. Often called as business intelligence, it is one of the fastest growing fields within strategic management. The sources of competitive intelligence are information brokers, internet, industrial espionage, and investigatory services. Some of the useful forecasting techniques include extrapolation, brainstorming, expert opinion, Delphi technique, statistical modeling, prediction markets, cross-impact analysis, or the CIA. So in the next table, we see a synthesis of external factors. So after strategic managers have scanned the natural, societal, and task environments and identified a number of likely external factors for their particular corporation, they may want to refine their analysis of these factors by using a form such as that given in table 4.5. So as an example of this procedure, table 4.5 includes a number of external factors for Maytag Corporation with the corresponding weights, ratings, and weighted scores provided. This table is appropriate for 1995, long before Maytag was acquired by Whirlpool. Note that Maytag's total weight was 3.15, meaning that the corporation was slightly above average in the major home appliance industry at that time. So, moving on to the next chapter, or chapter 5, we will look at organizational analysis and competitive advantage. So after reading this chapter, you should be able to, 1, apply the resource-based view of the firm to determine core and distinctive competencies. 2, use the VRIO framework and the value chain to assess an organization's competitive advantage and how it can be sustained. 3, understand the company's business model and how it could be imitated. 4, assess a company's corporate culture and how it might affect a proposed strategy. 5, scan functional resources to determine their fit within a firm's strategy. And 6, construct an IFAS table that summarizes internal factors. So, organizational analysis is concerned with identifying, developing, and taking advantage of an organization's resources and competencies. Resources are an organization's assets and are thus the basic building blocks of an organization. They include tangible assets such as its plant, equipment, finances, and location, human assets, the number of employees, their skills and motivation, and intangible assets such as its technology, patents and copyrights, culture, and reputation. Capabilities refer to a corporation's ability to exploit its resources. They consist of business processes and routines that manage the interaction among resources to turn inputs into outputs. A core competency is a collection of competencies that crosses divisional boundaries, is widespread within the corporation, and is something that the corporation can do exceedingly well. When core competencies are superior to those of the competition, they are called distinctive competencies. So what is the VRIO frame of analysis? Barney, in his VRIO frame of analysis, proposes 4 questions to evaluate a firm's competencies. So VRIO is basically the acronym for value, rareness, imitability, and organization. So it's an acronym. Value, what does it provide? Does it provide the customer value and competitive advantage? Rareness, do no other competitors possess it? Imitability, is it costly for others to imitate? And organization, is the firm organized to exploit the resource? So looking at these core and distinctive competencies, imitability is the rate at which a firm's underlying resources, capabilities, or core competencies can be duplicated by others. Transparency is the speed with which other firms can understand the relationship of resources and capabilities supporting a successful firm strategy. Transferability is the ability of competitors to gather the resources and capabilities necessary to support a competitive challenge. Replicability is the ability of competitors to use duplicated resources and capabilities to imitate the other firm's success. It is relatively easy to learn and imitate another company's core competency or capability if it comes from explicit knowledge, that is, knowledge that can be easily articulated and communicated. Tacit knowledge, in contrast, is knowledge that is not easily communicated because it is deeply rooted in employees' experience or in a corporation's culture. So a corporation can gain access to a distinctive competency in 4 ways. 1, it might be an asset endowment, such as a key patent coming from the founding of the company. 2, it might be acquired from someone else. 3, it might be shared with another business unit or alliance partner. 4, it might be carefully built and accumulated over time within the company. So clusters are geographic concentrations of interconnecting companies and industries, and according to Michael Porter, clusters provide access to employees, suppliers, specialized information, and complementary products. So, looking at business models. A business model is a company's method for making money in the current business environment. It includes the key structural and operational characteristics of a firm, how it earns revenue and makes a profit. A business model is usually composed of 5 elements: who it serves, what it provides, how it makes money, how it differentiates and sustains competitive advantage, how it provides its product and service. Also, some of the many possible business models include customer solution model, profit pyramid model, multi-component system installed model, advertising model, switchboard model. Some other possible business models are efficiency model, blockbuster model, profit multiplier model, entrepreneurial model, and de facto industry standard model. But what about the value chain analysis? A value chain is a linked set of value-creating activities that begin with basic raw materials coming from suppliers, moving on to a series of value-added activities involved in producing and marketing a product or service, and ending with distributors getting the final goods into the hands of the ultimate consumer. So in this figure 5.1, for example, is an example of a typical value chain for a manufactured product: raw materials, priming, manufacturing, fabrication, distributor, retailer. So the value chains of most industries can be split into 2 segments: upstream and downstream. A company's center of gravity is the part of the chain where the company's greatest expertise and capabilities lie, its core competencies. So we can see in this next figure, 5.2, a corporation's value chain. So each corporation has its own internal value chain of activities, and this is an example of it. So Porter proposes that a manufacturing firm, its primary activities usually begin with inbound logistics, raw materials handling and warehousing. They go through an operations process in which a product is manufactured and continue to outbound logistics, warehousing and distribution, to marketing and sales, and finally to service, installation, repair, and sale of parts. Several support activities such as procurement or purchasing, technology development, R&D, human resource management, and firm infrastructure, accounting, finance, strategic planning, ensure that the primary value chain activities operate effectively and efficiently. Corporate value chain analysis involves the following 3 steps. Examine each product line's value chain in terms of the various activities involved in producing the product or service. 2, examine the linkage within each product line's value chain. 3, examine the potential synergies among the value chains of different product lines or business units. In this next slide, we have a graphic with some examples of basic organizational structures, which are simple, functional, divisional, strategic business units, and conglomerate. So in figure 5.3, we have these 3 basic organizational structures illustrated. The conglomerate structure is a variant of divisional structure and is thus not depicted as a fourth structure. So we only have simple, functional, and divisional. But what about the culture? We deal with corporate culture, cultural authenticity, and integration. So corporate culture represents the collection of beliefs, expectations, and values learned and shared by a corporation's members and transmitted from one generation of employees to another. Cultural intensity is the degree to which members of a unit accept the norms, values, or other cultural content associated with a unit. This shows the culture's depth. Cultural integration, on the other hand, is the extent to which units throughout an organization share a common culture. This is the culture's breadth. So what are the functions of a corporate culture? Corporate culture fulfills several important functions in an organization. 1. It conveys a sense of identity for employees. 2. It helps generate employees' commitment to something greater than themselves. 3. Adds to the stability of the organization as a social system. 4. Serves as a frame of reference for employees to use to make sense of organizational activities and to use as a guide for appropriate behavior. So regarding issues in strategic marketing, market position it's significant because it deals with the question, who are our customers? It refers to the selection of specific areas for marketing concentration and can be expressed in terms of market, product, and geographic locations. A market mix refers to the particular combination of key variables under a corporation's control that can be used to affect demand and to gain competitive advantage. So in this next figure, marketing mix variables are product, place, promotion, and price. Within each of these four variables, there are several sub-variables, as listed in table 5.1, that should be analyzed in terms of their effects on divisional and corporate performance. As depicted in this following figure, the product life cycle is a graph showing time plotted against the sales of a product as it moves from introduction through growth and maturity to decline. What about now brand and corporate reputation? A brand is a name given to a company's product which embodies all of the characteristics of that item in the mind of the consumer. A corporate brand is a type of brand in which the company's name serves as the brand. A corporate reputation is a widely held perception of a company by the general public, and it consists of two attributes. 1. Stakeholders' perception of a corporation's ability to produce quality goods, and 2. Corporations' prominence in the minds of the stakeholders. The concept of financial leverage, the ratio of total debt to total assets, is helpful in describing how debt is used to increase the earnings available to common shareholders. Capital budgeting is the analyzing and ranking of possible investments in fixed assets such as land, buildings, and equipment regarding the additional outlays and additional receipts that will result from each investment. A good finance department will be able to prepare such capital budgets and to rank them by some accepted criteria or hurdle rates. For example, years to pay back investment, a rate of return, or time to break-even point for the purpose of strategic decision making. A company's research and development intensity, its spreading on R&D as a percentage of sales revenue, is a principal means of gaining market share in global competition. A company should also be proficient in technology transfer, the process of taking a new technology from the laboratory to the marketplace. So the basic research and development is conducted by scientists in well-equipped laboratories where the focus is on theoretical problem areas. Product research and development concentrates on marketing and is concerned with product or product packing improvement. Engineering or process R&D is concerned with engineering, concentrating on quality control and on the development of design specifications and improved product equipment. The displacement of one technology by another, or technological discontinuity, is a frequent and strategically important phenomenon. Such a discontinuity occurs when a new technology cannot simply be used to enhance the current technology, but substitutes for that technology to yield better performance. So in intermittent systems, job shops, the item is normally processed sequentially, but the work and sequence of the process vary. In contrast, continuous systems are those laid out as lines on which products can be continuously assembled or processed. Operating leverage is the impact on a specific change in sales volume on net operating income. The experience curve. The experience curve suggests that unit production consists decline by some fixed percentage, commonly 20 to 30%, each time the total accumulated volume of production in units doubles. For example, over 2/3 of large US companies are successfully using autonomous or self-managing work teams in which a group of people works together without a supervisor to plan, coordinate, and evaluate their work. With cross-functional work team, various disciplines are involved in a project from the beginning. In a process called concurrent engineering, the once isolated specialists now work side by side and compare notes constantly to design cost-effective products with features customers want. And virtual teams are groups of geographically and/or organizationally dispersed co-workers that are assembled during a combination of telecommunications and information technologies to accomplish an organizational task. 5 trends driving virtual teams. The use of virtual teams to replace traditional face-to-face work groups is being driven by 5 trends. 1. Flatter organizational structure with increasing cross-functional coordination need. 2. Turbulent environments requiring more inter-organizational cooperation. 3. Increasing employee autonomy and participation in decision-making. 4. Higher knowledge requirements derived from a greater emphasis on service. And 5. Increasing globalization of trade and corporate activity. How about the quality of work life and human diversity? The knowledgeable human resource manager should be able to improve the corporation's quality of work life by 1. Introducing participative problem solving. 2. Restructuring work. 3. Introducing innovative reward system. And 4. Improving the work environment. So human diversity refers to the mix in the workplace of people from different races, cultures, and backgrounds. An organization's human resources may be a key to achieving a sustainable competitive advantage. Beyond that, information system technology offers 4 main contributions to corporate performance. 1. Automation of back office processes. Automation of individual tasks. Enhancement of key business functions. Development of a competitive advantage. So the supply chain management is the forming of networks for sourcing raw materials, manufacturing products, and creating services, storing and distributing the goods, and delivering them to customers and to the consumers. What about the IFAS, the Internal Factor Analysis Summary? So the IFAS table is one way to organize the internal factors into the generally accepted categories of strengths and weaknesses, as well as to examine how well a particular company management is responding to these specific factors in light of the perceived importance of these factors to the company. So, using the VRIO framework, Value, Awareness, Immutability, and Organization, to assess the importance of each of the factors that might be considered as strengths. So, in this final slide, we have table 5.2, which represents the IFAS table, and by using the VRIO framework, Value, Awareness, Immutability, and Organization, to assess the importance of each of the factors that may be considered strengths, one can get a good assessment of all these factors. This is it for today, and best of luck. If you have questions, please email me, or otherwise I will see you online and next week with the next lecture.